Like that picture from our honeymoon that night in Frisco Bay. She said, give it away, but I can't give it away. I got a furnished house, diamond, and a lonely, broken heart full of love, but I can't even give it away. What's up, people? Christian here, Midnight Rider, wit and wisdom, rant and rave sometime. Today was an interesting day. I rode, I went to work at like 9-something a.m. on Saturday and worked until 6-something Saturday night. So 9 a.m.-ish to 6 p.m. Then went home for a couple hours and hang out with my son. And then went out to drive sometime between 9 and 10. Spent the first part of my evening in Bennington, Nebraska. Huge metropolis. They were having a block party, dance party band where they blocked off the street. Warehouse Avenue-ish. I've never driven to or from Bennington, Nebraska while driving the ride-share car. Interesting thing there, I got stuck there and I was picking people up and taking them home and then going back and picking more people up, and that went on for like 3 hours with a couple random rides in between there. But the weird thing was there was like 2 or 3 people walking home on 156th Street, which is like a 45-mile-an-hour road at between midnight and 1. It's dark. I was pleasantly surprised that I didn't see police cars and so on and so forth every time I went past where they were. But had then I drove like basically 9 p.m. until it's now 6:30 in the morning. So that's a pretty long day. I need to go to sleep, especially since I'm going to try and go to church at 8-something. My dog probably needs to be walked. But very eventful evening. I had a pseudo celebrity in the car. I took a ton of people to the airport early this morning. Couple of female bodybuilder / fitness instructors from South Carolina and Columbus, Ohio, respectively. Very nice ladies that were afraid that they weren't going to be able to get a ride to the airport at that time in the morning in Omaha, Nebraska. I thought they were in their 20s and 30s, but they were not. They looked great. And then ironically, I picked up 4 boys, men, kids, fitness guru instructor type people that were here for a conference in Lincoln, but stayed in Omaha close to the airport because they were also afraid they weren't going to make their flight. And then my pseudo celebrity had to go to the northeast section of the United States for a conference or a meeting or something. He said quick trip. Then picked somebody up in Council Bluffs and took them home. They work in the restaurant industry. I was trying to go home, but this young lady rung in on the app, and I was going to pick her up, and I got a phone call from a guy who was definitely not the girl that actually rung in for the ride, and to give me alternate directions because they couldn't figure out how to do it on the map. Well, I finally got to where they were at approximately 20th and Harney, sitting on a bench across from the Rose Theater and Firestone and Bank of the West and a few other businesses, and they were basically what looked to be maybe leaning or sleeping on each other. And when we got there, the guy went to go get in the car, but the girl was looking for her keys and phone and staggering and stumbling and smiling. Cute kid. And they had it set up for 2 stops. The first was dropping him off, and they work at a restaurant downtown, and I'm assuming they went out and partied after they worked last night. But I picked them up around 6 a.m., and apparently they have to be back at work at 9 or 10 a.m. this morning. And that's not good, because they were definitely still intoxicated. Well, I dropped him off, and she was talking about getting her drawer, and I assume that means maybe the restaurant drawer or whatever, and she was obviously confused, and I told her, everything's fine, I'm just taking you home. And she fell asleep, immediately, if she wasn't already asleep, looking for her keys and her phone and her purse. He was initially telling her that all of that stuff was back at work, but I found out when I got to where we were going that she had at least her keys and her phone, because the keys had a lanyard hanging out of her pocket and her phone was in her hand. So, and he did tell her to text him when she got home, which I forgot to remind her about, but he obviously knew she still had her phone, even though she didn't think that she did. But I got there, I turned off the car, and opened her door and stuck my hand in really fast so she didn't fall out. Apparently she didn't put her seatbelt on, and she was asleep against the car door. And I thought I was going to have to carry her to her house, because she finally, kept telling me that she's okay, and she was awake, sort of. She definitely was not all there. She did tell me she was embarrassed because I basically steadied her and helped her to her door. She couldn't find her keys, and I reminded her again that they were in her back pocket. I actually took them out of her back pocket and handed them to her, and there were surprisingly a lot of keys on the keychain. I expected there to be maybe a car key and a door key, but she found the key pretty quick and opened the door. I could hear dogs barking, and I told them to make sure the dogs don't eat her, and she got inside okay. She told me she was embarrassed, and I told her that everything's fine. I just wanted to make sure that she was safe. When I drop people off at their house, if I can see their door, I always make sure they get in the house and that the door opens before I drive away. It's just kind of how I roll. But this is just another case of putting yourself in a situation that could be bad. If I was a bad person, girl passed out in my car, thank goodness I'm not, but I did not have to carry her, but it was touch and go there for a minute. Got her into her house and told her to drink some water and sleep for a couple hours because she's supposed to be back there in a couple of hours. Not sure how that's going to work, but take care of yourself. Don't put yourself in bad situations. Don't rely on somebody you don't know to be a good person. I don't know what would have happened to her if the person that picked her up was a bad person. I'm glad it was me. Might try out the restaurant that they work at. Monster or something. Never heard of it, but I might give it a shot. Just remember, be safe. Be careful. Don't allow yourself to be put into situations that you're not in control of. I mean, it's okay to let loose and not be in control every once in a while if you have good people to make sure that you are taken care of and you're not hurt. But I don't know, if I was that guy, I would have either had her stay at my place and made sure she was safe, or I would have set the trip up to where she got dropped off first. He could have made sure she got in the house, and then I could have taken him home. Chivalry is mostly dead. I've been doing this for just a little while, and I also work in the service industry, and that whole women wanting equal rights and equality and stuff has gone so far that most guys, or a lot of guys, don't think they have to take care of the female that they're with. Well, I'll tell you right now, you're wrong. If you're a guy and you think that, you're wrong. You still open doors for a lady. You still make sure they get home safe. You still make sure you're not the reason that they're put in a situation that could harm them, or where harm could come to them. Be a good guy if you're the guy in that situation, and if you're the girl in that situation, please stop putting yourself in it. This has been Wit and Wisdom, minor rant and rave, mostly wit and wisdom, from the Midnight Rider. I really appreciate you watching. New episodes coming soon. I'm told I'm supposed to put these on every time, so thank you. Christian here, Midnight Rider. Have a great night.